Hello and welcome back to the channel. Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench. Part 11 now of this puppy hair covered model. So here we are. I haven't got a lot done during the week. It is now Thursday night, so I'm getting stuck in. I've done the seam around here. I've put in a couple of lots of super glue because I wanted to get rid of the seam. If you remember where that part went in there, we got the main oil tank there and then the separate part. I've been looking at some research photos and it's very difficult to see what's really going on with this. Some seem to have braided stainless lines, some seem to have like a nylon braid, so it's black in colour. This is obviously part of the space frame, so this is black. This frame here, I can't find any reference to it at all. It just seems a bit fictitious. There's a couple of ejector pin marks on here, so I filled them twice and here we are just sanding them out for the second time. The thing is to remember, guys, if you are using super glue like I am for filling stuff, I never use accelerator because it tends to kind of aerate the super glue, I find. And the other one is I never sand it within like 18 to 24 hours, because what I found is, especially with this VMS, it's bloody wonderful stuff as it is, what I found is you do it all nice, you sand it all nice, and then the next day you come back and you find it's just shrunk slightly. So when you put a coat of primer on, you see the shrinkage, so it sort of negates doing the work in the first place. So there we go. So that's those gone, hopefully, and they won't show up under a coat of paint. So I had a response from one guy who said none of this stuff is actually up in mid-air, it does actually fit to the frame, and it's quite obvious when you look further through in the build. When you actually come to fit this stuff, you can see that you know, this is going to attach to the frame here. It's not very clear in these instructions, I'm afraid, but when you look at your reference pictures of the real thing, you'll know what I mean. It's kind of almost worth, I'm not sure, but I'm wondering if it's worth fitting the engine first and then dry building this in the, well, this side, isn't it? Dry building this into the, yeah, I was talking about that was the fuel side. This is the oil side. Dry building this in and having it all fitted up. The other thing I'm going to do is these parts here, K15, you can see, these go onto those two pipes coming out of here, and they're designed so the pipes go in and then they have little pins on the back that go up against the firewall. Well, as you know, I've used those braided hoses. You may have just used the black tube that comes with the kit, but I would thoroughly recommend drilling out those holes, drilling out those unions, and then pull them up the pipes, fit the pipes through, get them so they look right, and then glue the unions on. Otherwise, because you know on mine with the engine that the pipes are very different lengths, so this way you don't have to worry about the length of the pipe. Just put the pipe in the hole and then slide the union along. But I'll show you that when we get there. But for now I want to carry on with this. You'll also see I've got this here from the next step. The next step is to build up the fuel side of things. They're sort of all over the place with these instructions. They kind of, you know, if you remember, they did the firewall and then went on to other stuff and then fitted the firewall later. They're doing the same here. And, you know, we don't actually need any of this until we get to, you know, this is step 17. We don't need this till we get to step 19. So why didn't we do it as step 20? You know, do step 19 and then do step 20. So it seems a bit weird. But I've done this, and what I'm going to do now is come along with some Mr. Surfacer. And this is the Mr. Surfacer 500 I'm using. I love this stuff. I use it on all my models. And what I find is it's really good, especially when you're spraying parts silver. Any tiny little pinholes or whatever that you've got will stick out like a sore thumb with silver paint. It's actually a very good base colour. So what I'm going to do here is just put some of this Mr. Surfacer 500, and straight away we can see, I don't know if you can see it there on the camera, but I can see where the super glue is shrunk back. There's a bit of a line there. So all I'm going to do is brush this on here over the areas, and then what this does, if you've got any pinholes or any tiny little marks, then what it'll do, it'll fill them in for you. Okay. The other thing I've done on this tank, I'll show you in a second. Let me just get this on and then I'll show you what I've done. So if you want to do the same on yours, you can. All of this extra work I'm doing, guys, is not really necessary. The kit's going to look beautiful if you just build it out of the box. But just depends how far you... There's going to be people out there that are going to be adding lots and lots of extra detail and hoses and this, that and the other. All I'm doing is just trying to sort of take it that little step forward. But also on here, there's a mould seam around here which is unavoidable, so I've put a radius around there, radius on there as well, so it matches that side, so it all sort of looks like an aluminium box, which is what it is in real life. There's also a big mould seam in the bottom there which you can take out, but there we go. So we'll let that dry. I'm just going to put a drop more down that side because I can see the black through it, and if you can see the black through it, it's not really being much of a filler, but basically it's like a liquid filler almost, this stuff. It's great. I'm going to put it around here as well because we may well have some shrinkage here. So just put it down these seams, and then I'm going to leave this for sort of 12 hours to dry. Again, the same as the super glue, if you sand this back too quickly, you will end up with, it'll shrink back, you'll end up with a seam line. So so this is all just basic stuff, guys. It's, you know, for those of you that don't want to see a seam line down the middle of your fuel pipe, this little bit of extra work will just help you make that model just that little bit nicer. Plus, I mean, it's not a cheap model, you know. You want to get your money's worth out of it, so instead of just building it in 20-30 hours, wherever they say it is, I think it's 30 hours they say, isn't it? You know, spend the extra time and do a bit of extra work and have some fun with it. Turn it into a project and make it yours, rather than just take it out of the box. So there we go. I'm going to grab a clothes peg so I can stand that up without getting any Mr. Surfacer on my nice clean blue sheet. We'll put some on here as well, see how that looks. As I say, this is basically like a liquid filler that you can brush on or thin down and spray on, and it just it'll just help you to make things look a little bit better on the seam front. You'll also see in other videos I've done, you can use it to you can remove it with a cotton bud with leveling thinners. And then that way, if you want to leave a seam, just put somewhere in there where that joins on. If you want to leave a seam, you can. So if you don't want to be looking at, just brush some on there. So yeah, if you've got a load of raised rivets in an area or something, you can put this in and then use a cotton bud with some leveling thinners and remove the excess, and it will just leave you like a seam, but it will be a consistent panel line rather than a big gappy seam. So there we go. Not quite sure what's going on here. Looking at the images, it would appear that this is a fuel swirl pot. Okay, but they've also got here, as you can see, they've got a pipe. So I'm thinking this is probably the fuel system. Okay, and this is the oil system. So not quite sure where we're going here, because I think this is a fuel filter and this is a fuel pump. Okay, not sure, but because when you go further on in the build, you will see that there are two pipes here that are attached to these fuel pumps, and they are coming over into that swirl pot. So maybe this is an additional fuel pump and that's a swirl pot, a fuel filter. I'm not sure, but yeah, that is certainly going into that unit there, and that is an electrical cutoff going to go in there. So we'll have a look when it's all together and see how it all goes, but I'm sure we'll get there in the end. So that's there telling us that that's going to go on the side. You can see that's fitted on the side there. And then that pipe there is going to the side and into there, and that pipe there is going into there, and then that's going into the fuel injection unit. Yeah, that's fuel system. Okay, right, so this is oil and fuel here. This is the oil tank, and then all this here is fuel. That pipe there is oil. All this here is fuel. So yeah, and that pipe there is oil as well. It looks like they've got oil going into the chassis here. I'm not quite sure what's going on, because I didn't think they had the oil going in the chassis on the later cars. But whatever, it is what it is. So we'll let that dry and then have a look. You can see already, on there already that Mr. Surfacer is showing us we've got a bit of a seam there. So I'm going to put another drop on there. Okay, I'm going to put another drop on there, and that will give me something to sand back. It's a motorway services, isn't it? Sand back. There we go. Lovely. We'll just have a quick look on here, see if any seams are appearing. It looks like there may be one there. Let's put another drop in there. Okay. As I've said before, guys, if you just want to see this built out the box, if you go to the Pocher site on YouTube, they have I think it's 4 or 5 parts video, just a guy building this out of the box, just screwing it together out of the box, not painting anything, not changing anything at all. So you can go and have a look at that. And if you want to see me do a build out of the box, the Pagani I will build out of the box. I'd like to think I'm going to build the Martini 917 out of the box, but I don't think I will. Not for a second, to be honest with you. Anyway, the other thing I've noticed, it looks like this should be an aluminium outer frame, and then in here it's like a fiberglass colour, that the colour like the top of the engine. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But anyway, as I say, it's Thursday evening now. This needs to go out on Saturday. I've just noticed there's a bit of a bumpy lumpy on there, so we'll just sand that out. There we go. Which means now I'm going to have to use etch primer. Otherwise the paint will just easily scratch off of there. So there we go. Lovely. Right. I'll see you, to you, in a few seconds. To me, a few hours. Okay, next day. As you can see, I've also gone off now and got all the parts off for the fuel system as well. So these are actually transfer pumps. So these transfer the fuel over to the other side. They go through the swirl pot, which is here, and then the fuel comes out of there and goes into the fuel injection pump distributor on the engine, where it actually builds up the pressure and pumps it through. So it's a very old system, as you can imagine. So I've got my Tamiya anti-static dust brush here. So we basically brush off all the bigger parts because we got dust and puppy hairs and all sorts on there. So we just brush all that off just like that, you can see. And then they're all ready to paint. Now that's going to be grey. This I wasn't going to paint, but I noticed there was like an injector pin mark sort of thing there. It was weird. There's a tiny little sink mark there. I'm not going to bother filling that. And we had also raised edges around these ports here. So I'm just going to basically spray everything black, then spray everything silver, and go from there. This here I think should be an aluminium box, so this will all be silver. But I think we're going to have to basically use some variations of silver to keep it all looking interesting. Now what I've done over here, you can see we've got this assembly here. So we've got our oil tank sat on the chassis. We've got this main pipe here, and you can see here we've got super glue. That's all waiting to be sanded down. And what we've got here is, you can see we've got this major pipe going around the tank here. And then we've got this pipe here, which is running round and going into that chassis rail. So what I've done there is actually fitted this pipe. We've also got an ejector pin mark there I've got to sand out. But what I've done here is fitted this pipe, wrong one, so that I can actually have this all painted as one. So that comes out now like so, Okay, I've got to sand down that Mr. Surfacer there, the Mr. Surfacer super glue, and then this tank will come out. I've glued these together, so this tank will come out. It does come out. I can't remember how, but it does. So there we go. Oh, how did it go? I can't remember now. Dafty me. I think I pulled it over. That's it. Pull it over that way. Pull that corner. So when you put it in like that, and then what it is, that lug there where that pipe's going to come out, that one there, that jams up against. So what you do is get it up, turn that, and then it goes in. Okay, and I've glued these together here, so this will all be painted as one. We've done the ejector pin marks on there. We've got an ejector pin mark there to sand out. So we'll quickly get rid of that. Obviously none of this is necessary if you don't want to do it. And I think I'm going to replace the hoses with the Tamiya hose I showed you earlier, or last week. Or was it earlier? I can't remember now. I can't remember when I got it. But basically, I'll just come with a knife on that one and take the top off. There we go. Just take the top off of that. It makes it a lot easier to sand because there's less to sand off. So we get that sanded out. And there we go. We're also going to get this here sanded out because we've got a, I don't know why, but they've got like a great big slot in here. It's probably because of the moulding restrictions. They've got a great big slot instead of a hole for that pipe to go in. And then it looks like somebody made a mistake with the CAD package or something, because there's this fitting on the end has a great big angle slashed on it, and it almost looks like it was designed to go in the other way around. So maybe there was a bit of a mistake made in the design phase or in the mould making phase. But you can see there's an ejector pin there, and then there's this great big slot that this goes into, and I basically wanted to fill that slot in so that it becomes a solid block. I'm not exactly sure what it is. It's probably some kind of, I'm not sure what it is. It's obviously, yeah, okay. No, I'm not sure what it is. It's probably some kind of thermostat or diverter valve. Like once you get enough pressure, then it sends the pressure back to the tank. You know, it'd be like an oil pressure relief valve. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, because you've got this pipe which is looping from the dry sump tank. So this is basically the tank of oil, and it would be like, I don't know, 2/3 full, and then it looks like this is a return which is coming back through the chassis. It's coming back through the chassis here. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, so I'd need to study a book on the Porsche 917 lubrication system to understand. But and then obviously you've got the you know, the translation between the car they looked at, the drawings they had, the pictures they had, and then the moulding, and you know, actually turning it into a production model rather than, you know, just something on a spreadsheet or whatever. So there we go. So that's all looking good. I'm going to spray this all black, and then hopefully this is all going to fit, because we've basically got to build all this up now and then plonk it in next to the engine, and all of this connects up to the engine somehow. So we shall see, but I'm sure it'll be absolutely fine. But we certainly won't be doing that in this video. So I'm going to go away now and get all of this painted black, and then I think I'll get my various different silvers out and go from there and get some, you know, we'll get some washes and some titanium silvers and stuff like that. These pumps are quite simplified. Not those. This one, sorry. This transfer pump. Looks like there's electrical cables go in here and here on those 2 points there. And then here we've got the points where the hoses go. So there we are. Okay, so as I say, I'm going to get some painting done, and then we'll go from there. So I'll see you back in a minute. And there we go. So we've got the all the parts painted black. You can see I've got the underbelly there for the oil tank is done in the LP12. That's the Curie Arsenal grey for Yamato. So everything is painted. Now what we can do now is pick up our parts and look around. We can see that we've got a bit there where it's touched, so we've got to paint that again because the silver showing through. We can see there I've gone over a bit on the side. By the way, for doing this, I've been using my gallery airbrush, which is really nice. I've been using it's not the most expensive one they do, certainly. It's this one here, the G-Hack 98D. It's a standard airbrush, not a trigger type, but it comes with a 0.38 and a 0.5 needle. I've been using the 0.38, and I find it to be really, really good for stuff like this because it's got quite a big paint cup on it. So rather than use my little, I'll show you the airbrush. Here it is. Hang on, I'll take the airline off. Yeah, there's the airbrush there. It's the G-Hack 98, and it's got a nice big paint cup on it, and it's really good. And the nice thing about this one is the paint cup goes in, and it does actually come up tight against the seal at the bottom. On some of them, the paint cup actually catches on the edge first, and then the paint gets around the thread, and it makes it a lot more cleaning. I would much prefer a brazed on cap, to be honest. A cup, should I say. I mean, I could just braze this one on, I suppose, if I wanted to, but I expect the heat would cause issues inside. But anyway, yeah, so yeah, really nice little airbrush. It doesn't cost the earth, and it works very, very well. If you want to get one, go look at my gallery airbrush reviews. I've done a lot of them. I use the airbrush cabinet as well, and if you go to the link below those videos, and then you can use the code NMB and get 10% off your purchases. So worth looking at. We can also see we've got something on there. That was just a bit of something or other. But yeah, we can go around and look at all the parts now and just see what we need to do. So that's all okay. Probably needs a bit of a polish before we put the silver on. The thing is, silver shows up everything. Silver is actually quite good if you want to do seam checking and stuff. That's all going to be okay. I'm going to paint that whole thing silver and probably go around the top with some black or something. I don't know. I did notice on here, on the outer side here, you can see around this, there, up the top, around where that pipe's coming out, that needs to be dealt with. So I'm going to grab some of the black super glue and just put that in there. Okay, so we get a better seam, or a better looking seam. I'm not sure if that's a seam exposed down there or what, but there we go. So we'll let that dry back. In fact, I'm going to put a drop more in there and let it come round. There we are. Very nice indeed. So let that dry now, sand that back, and then we'll give all these a coat of the silver. Again, I'll use that same airbrush because it is brilliant for painting silver. It really is. Maybe I'll do a bit of a video with it as well. See you in a sec. Okay, so there we go. We got the silver paint on. This is the Tamiya LP11, and it's wonderful paint. Really is good stuff. And there we go. So that's all painted. And this is just a base coat. What I intend to do is go over with other finishes to try and add some variation. Otherwise, you just get this, this solid sort of silver lump. But you can see it's worth taking the time with the seam filling and everything on there. And on that big fuel inlet pipe as well. You can see, all the work on that, doing the seams. It's well worth taking the time to do that. So yeah, everything's basically got a coat of silver on. We've got this this frame painted black now. That silver box is going to sit in there, and then we've got the grey there for the tray for it all to sit in. So basically, that on the top of the fuel tank there. So what I'll do is I'll make some mass here. I'll paint that a different colour. We'll paint these three things here a different colour. We'll just add some interest just to sort of make it all pop a bit. But as I say, this is just a base silver. I'm going to call it a day for this video, guys. Two reasons. One is this paint takes a little while to dry, so although it feels kind of touch dry, if I were to pick it up I'd leave finger marks in it, so I don't want to go handling it and masking it and spraying it and stuff to change, to add some tonality, and I feel like crap. I'm just hoping there's I'm in Gloucester, as some of you will know, and there's a awful, horrible bloody cold going around, and I hope to God I haven't got it, because I've had enough of colds. It seemed like I had a bloody cold every week last year, didn't it? So yeah, so I'm going to call that a day for this one. I'll put something else out, and I'll see you next week as well. Okay, so thank you for watching, thanks for your patience, and yeah, sorry if it's been a bit slow, but but we do need to get our ass in gear and get going. What I need to try and do is get the painting work done so that I'm ready to do a video rather than doing a video about bloody painting. So I'll see you all soon. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.